Oh, thanks for here. You just pressed the...
I was trying to blame it on my cousin. Lo and behold, I hadn't turned myself up on my own little thing. I was fully trying to blame my visit. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Triple BT Leap. Welcome to the Triple BTV live stream. We've been having nothing but difficulties. What? We having more difficulties? What do you need? You got lens flare? It's all right. We'll just deal with it till the sun goes down. If it didn't know, it looks kind of beautiful though. Look at that little lens flare. We got sun. We're like outdoors these days. You see this coming in right here? Isn't that beautiful right there, guys? Isn't that lovely? Well, welcome to the live stream where, hey, I feel like we're off to a better start than last week where everything just went completely to shit immediately and it never ever got better and we had to actually jump over to the other channel and do it right from the cell phone and I had to delete all the streams because they ended up being so bad that we couldn't even stand it. This is better than that so far. So thank you guys for being here tonight. If you noticed, I saw we had Anthony Granddaddy Herbs up in the chat. This is like I feel like it's a little bit of a reunion. We got Austrian ball and chain constrictors. We got lots of cool people in the chat. We got Nava up in here. Doug Nacker, our guest tonight. He's the guy that I want to bring in and talk to you guys about. And you'll see the conversation with Doug. For those of you guys that don't know Doug, he was on Triple B TV a while back. We were there in person at Tinley, but Doug was also one of the very first channels that I watched on YouTube, Hissy Fit. That's why I'm so glad Anthony's here too, because Anthony was actually the first person to ever comment on any one of my first YouTube videos ever. Like these guys are doing reptile YouTube before I knew what reptile YouTube was. And if you guys have seen the cards that I make for my snake cages, you guys have probably seen all the enclosures have those cards on them. That was basically almost an exact copy of the cards I saw on Doug's channel. I was like, ooh, that's cool. I want to make those. And I'm still using them to this day. They're like I just literally made some new ones 2 days ago, the exact same way. So, and so before we get any, Doug's trying to talk to me back stream, but you guys can't hear him yet. So I'm gonna say we're watching Triple B TV. All right, guys, I'll go ahead and bring Doug in here, please. What's up, my friend?
Hey, how's it going, Brian?
I know, sorry, it's a little confusing. I'm like, is he talking to me now?
I'm like, I think I need to say something here. That's good stuff.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, Brian.
Been a hot minute, dude. So
a little while, yeah.
I'm glad that you reached out. I know that you had gone through some stuff a while back. I think the last time you were on, actually, we were talking about it a bit, like the different struggle. Why don't you can you please just take us back to the beginning before you even got into snakes, and then go to how you got into them, please.
So yeah, the beginning for me, actually, I was one of those people that was actually afraid of snakes for the longest time. I was, let me see here, I think I was 27 years old when I first actually held onto a snake and wasn't freaked out by it, and it's basically our son. Well, he's my stepson, but at the time my wife and I were just dating, and he wanted to bring a snake in, and he actually already had brought it into the apartment. And I was like, no. My exact words were, "There will never be a single snake in this apartment, ever." I said, I don't like snakes. And he's like, "Well, can you just see it?" And it was like a fire belly or red belly, whatever they call them up here, and it was about the size of like a night crawler. So I'm like, well, I doubt that thing's gonna hurt me if it does bite me. So I held on to it. I'm like, okay, well, we'll get you a cage or whatever. The next day we went to Petco because, obviously that's the only thing that exists in the reptile world. If you're new to snakes, you don't know about any of the other stuff out there. And we went to Petco and we're talking to them about buying something for that snake. And they're like, oh, you don't really want to keep those kind of snakes. They're hard to keep alive. They eat larvae and stuff like that. And, pet stores don't sell a lot of that stuff in the area. She's like, but we do have ball pythons and boa constrictors if you want to take a look at those. And I'm like, well, sure, I guess. She said that the ball pythons were a little nippy there, but the boas were pretty cool. So she pulled out this baby boa constrictor, which was, like 18 inches, 2 feet long, whatever. She's holding on to it, and she's like, do you want to hold it? And my knees were already shaking, like really bad. I was standing there, and I'm like, sure. So I figured if she was, if I didn't want to hold it or whatever, she wouldn't let us buy it for the kid and stuff, just in case, because that was the whole thing, was you were going to buy a snake for him. Then I held it, and when I held that snake for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Like, this is just feeling it move around in your arms and stuff. It was like, that is cool. I think we're going to buy this. And then we impulse bought it. And then we impulse bought it. I was afraid to even take it out of the box, put it in the cage. I thought it was gonna bite me, in the terrarium or whatever. But then I just like started watching a ton of YouTube videos, like a ton. All of a sudden, my wife, again, we were just dating my girlfriend at the time. So she's like, hey, this guy named Garrick DeMeyer, apparently he's a snake guy in the area and stuff. And we can probably get a hold of him if we ever have any questions about the snake. I'm like, all right. Come to find out, Garrick DeMeyer at the time, he was probably like one of the top 5 breeders in the nation, like ever, at that point in time. This is 2009 when I got into this stuff. So I'm like, okay. Well, went on his site, found out that he was going to have like this little open house thing, kind of like a mini Tinley for just him. And so he had people come over to his shop. He had like refreshments, all that kind of stuff. You can see his like really cool looking ball pythons and stuff like that. And I had already kind of started looking at his website, and I'm like, oh my God, bumblebee ball python, there was pieds, he had killer clowns, dreamsicles. Like back then that was like the top, like the cat's ass,
Dude, yes, I do. I used to go to Garrick's site too and just like kind of just window shop all day long, just look at stuff.
Yeah. Well, I called him. I'm like, hey, I'm like, I have this boa, and I wasn't getting any other snakes, but that killer clown looks awesome. Like, can I buy that? And he's like, well, if you're just getting into snakes, you probably don't want to just buy it because that's about a $12,000 snake. At the time, it was $12,000, and I was like, oh my God, my car costs less than that, And he's like, but if you want, I could probably sell you the snakes that you can use to breed and make that snake, and it would be a lot less and it'd be a lot more fun and stuff like that. I'm like, okay. So then that's why I really started looking at his stuff, and I went to the open house. First ball python I bought was from him. It was a bumblebee ball python. And then I used my student loan money to buy a handful of other snakes and some anaplastic racks. It just pretty much kind of snowballed a little bit for me there. He was pretty much my mentor. Like he gave me all the advice in the world that I could ever need, which was better than any website or video stuff. But at the time, I was still getting, watching video stuff at, different YouTubers. Granddaddy Herps was watching his stuff. I think he started watching my stuff around the same time and everything. At the time, Justin Kabelka was just kind of starting out on the YouTube video stuff. He was doing like, just little videos about. He had the dreamsicle stuff was really big for him at that time, and that was kind of his main project at the time.
When he's doing like the one-on-one stuff.
Yeah, yep, the one-on-one. So that was really cool at the time too, because I always felt like I was bothering Garrick. I'm like, I don't want to, he's got all this other stuff going on. I feel like I'm just a pain in his ass if I keep on asking him questions. But at the time I didn't really know how a lot of the genetics work neither. I was like, okay, so why can't I breed a albino to a clown and get albino clowns again? Like, why can't I just do that? And you know what I mean? Like, I had to go through the whole thing. I ended up buying like the Herpers DVDs from Dave Kaufman's stuff. At the time he had Herpers 1 was already out, and I had Garrick in there. Then Herpers 2 was just coming out, so I bought that right away. And I'm like, oh, this is cool, because it's something I put on a shelf and see that I have a collection of reptile movies and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I kind of started out that way. Did the whole YouTube thing, not really thinking anybody was ever going to really follow me or watch my stuff. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, people are actually watching my content and actually enjoying it. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. But that's kind of how it started.
09 was when you got when you got that bumblebee, or?
Yep. I got the boa and the bumblebee both that year. So the boa I got in like August of 09, and the bumblebee I bought, it was like October or November of 09.
Okay, so 09, and you get your first couple snakes, and then you already started tapping into student loan money. You started getting more snakes.
Yeah. Started getting. I'm like, okay, well, I was going to school. I was actually going to school for marketing, because I'd always been kind of like into the marketing stuff, and I was actually in my last year and a half of school at the time. So I'm like, well, I don't really need it, because I actually was in the military, so I actually had GI Bill, the Montgomery GI Bill. So actually that was actually paying for my schooling at the time. So I really didn't need the student loan money, but I applied anyways, got it, and then I used it to buy a bunch of stuff. Back then a butter female cost like $600. The bumblebee itself, I think I paid like $750 or $800 for that. So I bought a handful of females. My first ones, the bumblebee, butter, pied, Mojave, and albino. Those were all females. And then I bought like I think a yellow belly male.
Around the same time, or did you raise the females up first and then?
I bought the females first. Had the females sitting there first, and then I bought the males about like a half a year later, I would say. I think it was. Because like I said, Garrick was pretty much mentoring me. He's like, you really don't need the males until these females are getting closer, you know, because otherwise you're just, you know, they're gonna be ready to breed and the females won't be, and you know, all right. Like I said, you know, I said he was pretty good with that. And, you know, Garrick to this day is one of the most humble people I've ever met in the ball python industry. He is super helpful. Like you can be the, you know, the most experienced person or the newest person, and he'll treat you the same. You know what I mean? It's awesome.
So how many years was it? Because I know you wanted to talk about the struggle you went through, and that's what I really want to talk about is
yeah,
because I think that a lot of people can benefit from that and not go down the road that you went down that led to. I mean, it was hard for you.
yeah. Well, you know, the thing is like in the front of the camera for the most part, for a while nobody really knew and stuff.
Well, when
Because
was it? So
it was
09, you got your first snake. You just get some females, and then like 2010 is when you got your first male. And
so
then,
yeah, 2010, I started getting like some males. I even got some more females at the time and stuff like that. So again, nothing was like super high end, what's considered high end now, anyways. But at the time, you know, like a sugar female was high end because there wasn't a whole lot
well,
of
you're
it
saying
out
like
there.
you said, a
And
killer count is $12,000. That's
yeah, yep. So I mean, there was like I wasn't spending that kind of money and stuff like that. I mean, I was, like I said, I was going to school, so I was working part time and then going to school pretty much full time. So I really didn't have a lot of money to actually spend, but yeah, I was using the student loan money for that. But then a couple of years later, so in 2012, actually, I got my first handful of clutches of eggs. I had 4 clutches that season in 2012. One of them was like a killer blast female or I'm sorry, a bumblebee to lemon blast. One of the ones I wanted to make was like the super pastel pinstripe spider, because at the time that was pretty awesome. It was one of the more rare snakes that was out there at the time, for combos anyways. Also, I was trying to make some stuff with trying to get I ended up getting a clown. I tried making like Mojave het clowns at the time, but my Mojave had 4 eggs. All 4 snakes were normals. So I'm like, oh man. But no, it was still fun though. I still enjoyed it. But then when fast forward to like after I got done with my schooling, and my job situation wasn't the greatest, but then I got into a management position, or the position I used to work at a job called Bay Towel, and then I quit there to go to school. It's like Cintas or Aramark type company. It's where they do really rug and uniform delivery. And when I ended up going back there, and then I eventually moved up to like a route manager position. So in 2013, I actually got let go because of budget cuts and stuff. And then when I got let go, I was like, oh my gosh, I ended up I got a different job, but it was a lot less than what I was making. I actually ended up having to sell a lot of the stuff at that point because I needed funds to pay bills and whatever else. So I'm like, well, snakes are still worth something. I can sell them and, you know, make do for a few months. And at that point, I got down to, I think there was like 3 ball pythons that I still had like in my possession. I had a pair of double het clown pied stuff. I had a pastel double het clown pied and a normal double het clown pied. The pastel one was a male, the normal was a female. And then I had a the super pastel spider pinstripe one that I made. I still had that one, and then I also had a pastel ivory. And then as I started to work at my new job, after that whole little stint of having like a lower income job, I got a job working at a paper mill. Paper mills up here pay pretty good money. They're, you know, so I was going from like 40,000 a year to about 60,000 a year, you know, that I wasn't used to. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I'm going to get snakes back again. You know, I'm going to be able to, you know, ramp up the snake stuff. Well, it did, but then it kind of got like a little out of hand where I was buying a lot of stuff. I was hiding a lot of stuff from my wife. I was like, oh no, I'm not getting anything else. She didn't come down and look at anything. So I was like, okay, whatever. I just kept adding and adding and adding. And then I was,
because you were making good money at that point. So
yep. And but the thing is I didn't use any of that money at all for, you know, helping the family. You know, we were trying to buy a house for the longest time, and I definitely would say that it kind of hindered that. It like definitely put that on hold for quite a while. Like, we probably could have saved up a lot of money for a house, or, you know, for a down payment and all that kind of stuff. But I ended up kind of pissing a lot of it away to, you know, for the ball python stuff, which I never really like. I was like, I tried to fit in it as much as I could. I didn't mention this before, but my wife thought it was cool we got a snake initially, but she didn't want me to keep getting more, and she thought it was like, you know, she wasn't really supportive of it. because she didn't really, she's one of those people where she has to kind of see it already happen before she kind of believes it. She's,
So it was 2012 when you lost that initial job, and then it was around that time, and then that's when you had to go. How many snakes did you have before that happened? And when went down to 3 the first time?
At that time, I think I had around I think I got up to like 18 or 20 snakes. And it was all ball python. I've pretty much always done ball pythons. So when I say snakes,
and then it went back down to 3, and then
down to 3.
Then you got that job with the paper mill, and you started ramping back up again.
Yeah, yep. So I started doing that, and then when I was selling snakes, all the money, like every bit of the money, went back into the reptile stuff. Whether it was upgrading the racks.
And you weren't like producing babies to cover or
yeah. So I was. I mean, yeah. The babies were. I was selling them, and I was buying new stuff, and then I would, I always had some holdbacks. I was always shooting, like every time I had clutches and stuff, I would always, goal was to make something that I could add to my collection and then sell whatever I didn't want to keep, So it was never really about the money, like when I was doing it like that. But in the long run, I was like, I knew I could make money on the snakes that I can use to buy other morphs that are, harder for me to just buy off, just by pulling out my wallet and saying, okay, I'm going to, buy this snake. I would sell a snake for, $1,500 or $2,000 or whatever. And I'd sell another one for like $1,000. All of a sudden I had enough to buy, higher end, $3,000 snake or $4,000 snake or whatever it was. And yeah, I mean, I didn't talk to my wife about any of that stuff. I just did it. Like, it was like, okay, well, I'm not going to involve you because all you're going to do is be negative towards me. That was my way of looking at it. Was like, if she wasn't going to support me, then screw her. Like, that's how I felt at the time. You know what I mean?
So
which was not good.
It wasn't necessarily that it was getting you into financial trouble so much as it was just getting you into trouble with your wife because you're hiding it from her. And
yeah, initially, right at the end there, like, well, the end from like a couple years ago. So when I was it 2018, I announced that I got to get out of this because I need to make a decision on this whole thing, and I need to get out of it right now. And I'm selling everything, whole collection sale. That year I had bought a lot of stuff, and to the point where, I mean, I took out a high interest loan to buy 2 snakes from Ozzy. And I was like, oh, hey, I'm going to pay that back before the interest comes back at me, But I didn't. I didn't have the money to pay it. So I borrowed like $5,000. I took out a $5,000 high interest loan because at the time that was all I was able to get approved for was through a high interest loan company. And all of a sudden my first payment was due, and it was like $550. And in the long term, if I were to make those payments until it was done, that $5,000 loan would have been about $9,000. And I was like,
not a good move.
No, not at all, not at all. Because like I said, I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna take care of this and whatever, and that was kind of, I think that was a big realization for me. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't keep doing this because I was not paying credit card bills. Like, I paid my mortgage payment, like that I took care of. It's like, okay, I didn't want to lose the house, but like I had credit cards and stuff like that. I just like stopped paying, and so like, okay, instead of paying $300, $400 worth of credit card bills, I'll take this $300 or $400 and put it towards snakes that I'm going to buy. You know what I mean? So then I had the extra money each month because I was using it stupidly. My family means a lot to me, but at the time I was neglecting what I was supposed to be doing as a father and as a husband and all that kind of stuff. So, and it didn't hit me initially. At first I thought I was doing what I thought was right by buying all these snakes so I can eventually do it maybe a little bit more full-time, or even like a really good side job to the paper mill. You know what I mean? So
was there a moment when you realized that, like obviously if you're hiding stuff from your wife, then you've got to feel some kind of guilt right there from that. But was there a moment when that like hit you, like, I need to like change? I know in 2018 you said, but like, was there some kind of like moment of like a aha moment, like I'm gotta change what I'm doing, is not gonna work? Like, what was it that switched you up from driving yourself just straight, like going full bore, like addict style, like pissing away everything and not paying your mortgage and your house, repossessed, right, like all that stuff? Like what stopped you from going there?
Yeah, so I would say, well, she had said basically, I want a divorce. Like like you lie to me. You're not telling me things. I know you're hiding stuff. You won't tell me. Um, obviously she really didn't go on my YouTube, so I didn't really think anything of it. So then I'm like, okay, I did all these unboxings on YouTube, but she didn't know because she didn't really go on my YouTube channel to watch stuff. But then I think one of her friends actually told her, like, does your husband keep getting snakes or something? It's like not like it's private or anything, you know. But yeah, I mean, she had already kind of felt like I was straying away from the family for quite a while because like at the paper mill, hours are horrible. So I was working a lot of hours. I was working doubles. I was working like turnarounds. So basically I'd work for like 8 hours or 16 hours, come home, sleep for 8 hours, then go back to work for another 8 hours or whatever. Cause like the paper mill, that's just how they worked hours there. You make good money, but you really take a toll on your body. And when I wasn't working, I was on my phone looking at snake stuff, trying to figure out what snakes I was going to buy next. If I was going to upgrade racking, or maybe I can find a place to rent that will have more room for all the snakes I'm going to get eventually. I would be in the snake room just doing stuff in there while the kids and my wife were basically hanging out without me because they just didn't, they're like, well, it just really took a toll on them, because I was ignoring them a lot. So they really didn't see me a whole lot. And to this day, I would say to this day, I probably permanently strained my relationship with my older boys, and that includes my stepson and my 2 boys that I had with my ex-wife. And to the point where we really don't have that close of a relationship. Now, luckily, I have an 8-year-old daughter now and a 3-year-old daughter. And over the last couple of years, I've definitely gotten a lot closer to my 8-year-old daughter. She's been in hockey all year this last year, actually the last 2 years. And now that I don't work at the paper mill anymore, which definitely helps because my hours aren't totally screwed up. But I've put a lot more focus on family. And I think the aha moment was like, am I going to lose everything like that really matters to me? Like the snakes matter to me. I mean, they're living things, but like I don't know. I've looked back and, you get like the Facebook memories and stuff, and like in June, we got married in June of 2011, and in June of 2018, the memory comes up, and it's like, God, we looked so happy there. And we, and I wasn't hiding things from her then. And I was, we had a really great relationship. And, I don't know if you watched some of my videos from like a couple years ago, I actually got up to like 250 pounds. I'm like 5'8", so that's not a good weight to be when you're 5'8". I'm down to like 195 to 200 pounds now. Definitely a lot healthier. I feel like I'm in a better state of mind, but I mean, a lot of that just kind of all hit at once. It kind of snowballed into one big, boulder of a snowball. And I was like, wow, I feel like crap. My body feels like crap. I'm mentally worn out. I'm mentally drained. And on top of it, my family basically like almost doesn't even know I exist. And my wife wants to divorce me. And I would say that was like the aha moment all rolled into one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's pretty intense, man. I mean, you hear it a lot. At least I used to hear it all the time in the groups. Like, people are like, oh, it's an addiction. You're getting a new snake. It's an addiction, and it definitely can be. I mean, it was for me at first. It was like, oh, another. And I myself have an extremely addictive personality. So when something like that comes up, like I like to get into it. I like to go like. I poured my entirety of myself into it. Luckily for me, I guess there's so many other things that come along. But I was definitely on that track. Like at first, I was on the same track as so many people that get into snakes again for the first time. It felt like for me, coming back and getting back into keeping a snake. I had 1, then I had 2, and then I felt like it went from 1 to 2 to like 10. And
right.
At some point, I was like, okay, this is about where I want to be. And then I literally, for almost a whole year, I didn't even buy a snake, maybe even longer. So I was able to keep, like, I just wonder how many people get into your situation where it gets, but even more important than like how to stop yourself from getting to the point where like you've gone too far. And it's like yours is, I would argue a more extreme case, at least the more extreme case I've ever heard, where like you're literally losing touch with your family and you're like your wife's going to divorce you. Like that's taking it to the kind of extreme level of snake keeping and breeding when it gets to that
Yeah.
point.
Well, that's the thing too. Like just like with any addiction, like an alcoholic doesn't know they're an alcoholic. They just think they like beer or whatever, or they like to drink alcohol.
No idea what you're
But
talking about.
but that's the thing with me. I didn't think I had a problem. Like I would talk to other people and be like, oh, if I had to pick between my wife and my snakes, I'd pick my snakes because at least they don't bitch at me with everything I do. You know what I mean? And I look back now and I just think how stupid I sounded when I'm like, God, really? Like I would, like, I built a life with her. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, we've been together now for 12 years. It'll be our 10-year wedding anniversary this June, actually. So, it's like I almost threw a lot of that away. I mean, I know what it feels like to have like my boys, my ex-wife, when we were really young when we had my boys and I was in the military, and I knew it wasn't gonna last, and it didn't, but dealing with having my boys only part-time, and then when I did have them, I barely spent any time with them because I was wrapped up in all the other stuff I was doing, and then on top of it, thinking about, okay, if this happens again, there goes my relationship I'm gonna have with my girls because I'm still gonna be doing all this stuff with the snakes or whatever. I can't lose touch with my reality, my actual reality of my family and my life, and like my kids and stuff like that. That's just, and I was losing touch with everything. So I mean, but like again, I hit it kind of. I started to implement a lot of that crap into my videos, which I took some of the, I'm not proud of that stuff. I was not. I look back at those videos and it makes me almost sick. Like I normally don't watch my videos, but then I would watch the ones where I'm like, I don't know, giving some sob story or something about oh, I need I don't think I was trying to mislead anybody, but like I put myself in these situations where I didn't have the money because I was spending it on snakes and stuff like that. I had to pay my attorney fees for my custody battles. My boys wanted to live with me because of the situation their mom put them in, and I paid the lawyer fees, but then when it came time to pay the lawyer again for the next batch of money I owed him or whatever, I didn't have the money because I had already spent it on snakes. And then I was like, oh shoot, I did a whole Patreon thing and I was trying to like make money on that. I think trying to figure out any way I can make money so that way I can keep doing what I do, but make myself, I think, feel better for what I was doing. I don't know if that's what it was. It's just really hard looking back at that and trying to understand what I was thinking then, because I don't think it that way now. But I mean, I've looked at pictures of myself, back then, and this is like 2016, 2017, 2018. And it's like, I don't even know who the hell that person was. It's just not, it wasn't me. And if anybody has ever felt it slighted by me, like if anybody ever felt I did wrong to them or whatever, I sincerely apologize. It's definitely not my intention. I was never trying to, I always tried to be the one to come out on the wrong end. Like, let's say I had a snake or something, I didn't know specifically if that genetic was in there, I would sell it at a lower price with, that person might have the hopes that it does have that gene in it or something like that. But beyond that, like I never tried to, intentionally screw anybody over or anything like that. But if anybody ever felt that way about me, hey, feel free to message me and talk about it, because I definitely wasn't in the right state of mind at that time. So I mean, I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff. I guess it's almost hard to explain a lot of it. I'm actually gonna be on with Jason Bigler from Morph Mixology in
horrible show.
A month from now or so. So I feel like, it'll be a good kind of follow up to this, because obviously everybody kind of has different way of looking at something. He might be like, oh yeah, hey, I watched your interview with Brian, and I was thinking next, did you ever think of this, or did this ever happen, or something like that. So there was so much stuff that I don't even know if I can wrap my head around all of it.
Yeah, well, like my good friend Terry down here in the comments just said, it takes a big person to admit their mistakes and learn from them. I think that's true. A lot of people will make mistakes, and these are the type of people I'd like to keep myself very far from. They don't see them, and they just like move right past like it never happened, and,
right,
and never even own up to it at all. And that's that's worse than anything. And any mistake you could ever make is to not like look back and be like, man, I really messed up. And like,
Yeah.
and I must have been having some, I'm realizing now, I almost forgot. Forgive me, but I've been so busy these past 24 hours. I almost kind of forgot like what was coming today. But I had a dream last night, and it must have been sympathetic. I had a dream that my wife left me, and she, my wife in my dream was like my wife or slash like previous girlfriend. It was one of those weird things, it's like a dream. It's like you can't tell exactly who's who, but it was just this thing where it's like, oh man, it's like why this is bad. Like, and then but even in the dream, like came this moment of reality, like, okay, I guess she's done. She's leaving me. I was like, I tried to look at the positive side. Even then, I was like, well, I guess it means I can like start anew. But then I still woke up and I was like, oh wait, no, we got kids. Like we're not we're not separating. I woke up, looked at her, and like, I don't know. It just, and I'm thinking it was from knowing that we were going to talk about your story today. That must have been where it came from. But
it could be. Like I said too, and I think I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you, but I know I mentioned to a couple of people and stuff talking about kind of getting ready for this podcast with you tonight. But I think if I would have done this interview with you or talked to you about this right after I got out of everything, even like 2018 or even early 2019, I think it would have went a lot different. I think I still would have been kind of playing the blame game, like trying to blame my wife. Actually, this actually brings up a good point. Sean Bradley, when he had the Bullshit podcast, he actually did a full interview with me. It never aired because he actually said we had to re-record it. But then he was just like, at the time, he was just ready to get out of it then, and he never did. It was supposed to be like one of his last few episodes, and then it just didn't. And maybe it was because he listened to it and thought, oh man, I'm not going to air this. But like
that would be
which
something.
I wouldn't blame him.
For Sean, I don't feel like Sean has a problem putting anything out there, really.
That's true. That's true. If that maybe it was that intense. But no, I a lot of that interview was me bashing my wife. I mean, it was bad. I'm glad he didn't air it. I really am, because I would just be I don't know. I'd probably feel like I'd puke anytime I'd listen to it. I didn't, not like bashing her and like where I was, calling her names or anything, but just basically how non-supportive she is. And it's, I mean, if she didn't get so mad at me, I wouldn't be hiding the snakes. And I think I mentioned in there that I was, I'd buy snakes and didn't tell her and all that kind of stuff. But like I was just playing the blame game, and it's like, it's just not, like I said, if I would have done this interview or talked to you about this a year ago or 2 years ago, I think that's definitely how it would have went down. It would have probably not been positive like it should be, and not like it is now, where I can see kind of like that out of body experience where it's like you have to take a step back and like look at yourself and be like, holy crap, who the hell is that? Because that's not who I am. That's not, I don't know. That's just not me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think I may have called you on it at that moment. Like, wait a minute, it's not your wife's fault. You have to tell her about these things. But,
yeah.
But I've always known you to be a good, we've been talking for, we don't like keep in touch like pen pals or anything, but every interaction I've ever had with you, like you seem like a very respectful guy. You seem like a nice guy that cares about people. I mean, you obviously maybe dug yourself a little deeper in your thinking, and maybe, there is something to be said for having, if you're really into something as you were with the snakes, like to have the support, to go to your side a little bit from the way you felt towards your wife back then. There's something to be said for that, like a little bit of support, so you don't have to hide yourself from, like, there's a little give and take in everything. It's not 100% up to you to just be like, okay, well, you don't like them, so I guess I'm just going to not do what really makes me happy.
Right.
So how did you get to the point where you're at now, where you've moved past it? I mean, you've got the support of your wife now, right? You didn't. You got it back together. It's not bad at this point, right?
Right. Well, and it was something that's like, okay, when I first got out of it, that's like when I was starting to sell everything. It actually came at a like really good time though, because I messed my shoulder up at the paper mill, which I think it was, looking at it back now, is like a godsend. I hurt my shoulder, and I was out of work for like 6 months. So I was like, okay, well, I am selling the snakes. I'm getting out of it, so we can use that to help, get caught up on things and like, take care of things. And even then, I don't think I even told her she didn't know quite how deep we were into stuff. Like, she knew I still owed stuff, and like some of the credit cards were going to collections, but she didn't know about like the loan stuff and everything else. I was taking out money to, for loans to buy snakes and stuff like that. And and then eventually it kind of came out, and we were at the same time also trying to like kind of reconnect with each other because, I mean, she was still pretty bitter about it with everything with me, which I don't blame her. It's totally understandable. But
There's a lot of
you know,
stuff, a lot of stuff that probably unloaded on her at the same time.
yeah, you know, you know, and it was definitely awkward at first, you know. I mean, it wasn't like when we were first together, you know, you're even like the first 5 or 6 years we were together. It was definitely like I didn't know if it was ever gonna get back to the point where it's like we felt like we were totally in love again, you know. But so we started selling. Snakes went fast because I had a lot of adult breeders. I had adult desert ghost female animals. It was before Justin blew the lid off of the desert ghost stuff. So a lot of people still thought they were deserts, and they're like, oh, well, they won't lay eggs because the females won't lay eggs. Like, I don't know why you're getting all these females. I'm like, this is not a desert. It's a desert ghost. It's a totally different thing.
Horrible name.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, oh man. But then, so I had like, you know, 3 or 4 like breeder size desert ghost females. They sold fast because the people that did know about it, they wanted in on those animals specifically. So I'm like, okay, well, that helped out. It helped, you know, take care of some stuff. A lot of the stuff started selling. Garrick, you know, he's always been there for me and everything. And he's like, so you're getting like rid of everything? And I said, yeah. And he's like, what about like your dreamsicle? Because like he knew that like in 2009 when I first got into it, and I was like watched like Justin's videos of the dreamsicle stuff. He's like, I always talked about how, oh man, someday I want a dreamsicle. And I actually got the dreamsicle that I have from him via trade from snakes that I produced. And he's like, if I was going to keep any one snake, maybe I would keep that if I was you, you know? And I'm like, well, yeah, I don't know. I thought about maybe keeping a snake or maybe 2, and then I talked to another guy that I'm friends with, and he's like, why don't you like, would you be willing to do like a breeder loan thing? Like you just, that way the snakes are still yours, but like somebody else kind of has them and does the stuff with them, you know, maybe produces some stuff and, you know, maybe like go like half on some of the projects or whatever. Like, would that be, and that way you're not totally out instead of getting totally out, you know? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I really thought about it. And then I'm like, well, if I do, I'm going to talk to my wife about it, because that's where I went wrong the first time, right? I mean, that's where it all started, this whole entire thing. I'm like, so I'll talk to my wife and see what her thoughts are and stuff, and see if she would be on board. And then when I told her initially, she's like, you said you were getting out of everything. I thought you were getting out of everything. I said, well, I mean, I will, but I mean, I just want to be able to communicate with you about this stuff. I said, here's what we could potentially do if I were to keep some of the animals, but let them kind of stay at a different place or whatever, you know? And she said, and after kind of explaining a few things to her, and I wouldn't have anything here, she's like, yeah, okay, whatever, that's fine. I don't really care, I guess. And then, so I have a pair of scaleless heads. I sent over to his place, my buddy Bill's place. And then a guy who bought all my racks and my incubator that I made and my ultrasound machine, he bought a good handful of animals for me. And then there was still a couple of them that I still had that he's like, well, I'm not really sure about buying those though. And I said, well, what if you would do like a breeder thing with me, and they're still mine, but you can use them and then, you know, produce some stuff for the next few years. I said, and that way, if I do get back in it, like in 5 years or so, you know, then I can just get them back from you and stuff, you know, and we kind of, you know, put some stuff in writing or whatever, and said, okay, let's do that. Well, the other guy, Bill, he didn't want to, he's like, oh, I don't really have the room for the scaleless heads anymore. I'm filling up my stuff pretty good. He's like, can I send them back to you? I'm like, oh, sure. So I told my wife that, hey, just so you know, he's sending these ones back to me. I said, I don't know what I'm going to do with them. She's like, well, why don't you just do it here then? If you're going to breed them, why don't you just breed them here? Just keep like a rack or something. And I was like, okay. It caught me off guard because I didn't expect her to say that after all the stuff that had happened. So I'm like, okay, well, all right, we'll just do that then. And I've wanted to make a scaleless. I know that there might be the whole controversy if the scaleless might not produce eggs for females and stuff like that. But I'm like, well, even if I can just make one to have as a pet or something like that, it'd be kind of cool. I want to do that. So I told her about that, and we'd sell whatever else. And then I don't know why, I think I had a dream about it, or I was just thinking about it at work one day, but I'm thinking to myself, you know, what has always been the best part for me was producing ball pythons and, getting, having the snakes here and breeding them and like basically the journey of, baby snake to adult snake to making baby snakes again. You know what I mean? Like that's the funnest. For me, it's a blast. I love taking snake off the eggs, put them in an incubator, and you get the anticipation of waiting for those eggs to hatch and stuff, and that's what I really like cared about. What I really didn't care about was the money, and that's what kind of got me in trouble in the first place, right? So I'm like, what if she just keeps all the money? Like she only works part-time anyways, so she's like, because with my job now that I have, she really can't work during the week, so she only works on the weekends, and she's like every other weekend. And I'm like, what if I just let her control whatever she wants to do with the money, let her have the money. I basically gave her my whole Hissy Fit Reptiles PayPal. So I have no control of the Hissy Fit Reptiles PayPal. That's what I give to people when they want to buy something from me. But she has the card that has the name on it and everything. Like the debit card that's attached to that PayPal account. Then that way, she'll see what's coming in. She'll know, hey, okay, yeah, he sold another snake. Cool. Now we got this. And maybe we should get something for the girls, or maybe we should, get something for the house or do whatever, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And then at the same time, I did talk to her about, hey, maybe every so often, maybe, I get a couple different snakes a year to kind of like, up it a little bit. So we are different things going on. That way I can keep on doing stuff. And plus I'll have some holdbacks here and there. She was totally cool with that. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. Let's do it, And that's kind of how I got her support and cooperation on it, because I'm just enjoying doing the ball python thing without the added stress of what I'm going to make money wise, because I really don't care what I'm going to make money wise. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's great. I can.
But at the same time, obviously, I don't want to undercut people. I'm not going to be like, oh, well, I don't care what I make on it. I'll just give this snake to you for $50 and it's actually worth $1,000.
Oh, sure.
It's not like that or anything.
I wouldn't
like
see
that,
you doing that at all. Definitely.
But
I see exactly the reasoning behind what you're doing. 100%. That makes. I couldn't do that because I've done something like I gave my wife a bunch of money before. I was like, yeah, go put it in savings, like save it. And then we came back kind of hard. I was like, we need to pull some of that money. She's like, oh, what money? I was like, all that money I gave you to put into a savings thing. She's like, there's nothing. I was like, what do you mean? How many clothes you got in your closet now? What do you mean it's gone?
See, those clothes are her snakes.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That was
So
a while ago. I think she's better now. I don't know. I didn't ask.
Keep it that way, no? But yeah, so like I had a few ball pythons that I had available over the last few months, and I'd have somebody message me and they're like, hey, would you take this much for, I'd have it listed for like $400 and they'd be like, hey, would you take 325? I'm like, hold on a second. I'm like, hey, Jenny, would you be okay with getting $325 for this snake? She's like, I don't know, what's it worth? And I'm like, well, 400, she's like, yeah, sure. That sounds good. Let's do that. I'm like, all right. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's do it. Here's my PayPal. Hissy Fit Reptiles,
All right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
we'll make this is going to be part of a PSA that we're putting out right now. That if Doug says that he can't get the snake because his wife said no, like this is real. This is not your average like, oh, my wife said I can't. Sorry, this is a real one.
This is legit. Yeah, it's like hey, let me check with the wife. Yeah, but it's funny is that I didn't really think about it that way until you just put it in perspective just now.
It's just one of those classic things where it's like, oh, I really want this
Just-
snake. I'm gonna see it. Oh, sorry, my wife said I couldn't.
Yeah, that sounds about right now.
But you got
yeah.
a legit reason. I'm glad that you guys worked it out, man, and that it didn't destroy your relationship, and you guys found a way to make it work. And so where are you at right now? I mean, I see you got you got racks behind you. At least I don't see any fancy fit cards on there or anything.
So yeah, no, I know. I'm lacking on that because a lot of the ones I had. So my Photoshop, when I updated it, it basically said that all my rack cards, like for some reason, they weren't compatible with my new Photoshop, and I don't have the old one anymore. So I'm like, I have to start from scratch on it. I just really have been like lazy on it. But then again, I was around the time I was getting out of it too, so I was thinking I don't need the rack card stuff anymore. But the stuff I have now, there's really not that much here. So in my possession right now, I have 14 ball pythons, 2 of them which are basically not going to be here once somebody gets them. I have like a giveaway thing going on my YouTube channel. So once I hit like 8,000 subscribers, I'll be giving away a pastel red stripe vanilla male. And but yeah, otherwise, I mean, there's stuff in here. I get my desert ghost thing. So this was kind of when I got back into it a little bit. So this is a pastel Enchi desert ghost, possible het clown, possible het hypo. So it was something that, you know, I talked to my wife about and said, hey, just a couple things. I mean, because I really don't have, with the stuff that I have, I'm going to need like a male to kind of go with some of the stuff or whatever. And it's like, okay, whatever. Just don't be like blowing everything on it and stuff. The other thing is how you
like those FB5s?
They're pretty good, actually. They're really nice. For like, you know, the nice little ones and stuff like that. And what's nice about this is that sea serpent rack. So actually, you know, you can fit 3 on each of them instead of just 2. So for now, with what I have coming, I don't think I'll need any more than that this year. But you know, next year when some of the other stuff kind of gets up to more breeding size, like I have the dreamsicle female, she's not ready to breed now, but next year she will be. So yeah, I mean, it's just.
And that's that original dreamsicle female from 09?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. Let me see. This is her. I gotta give her some love here. So this is the one. So I mean, I didn't get this one in 09. So this one is a 2018. Actually, the year that I got out of it, earlier that year, I had basically did a trade of Garrick. So I produced some Pastave red stripe and pastel mystic red stripes, and we did a trade on a handful of those for just this one snake. So I mean, it's kind of not sure the lighting is and stuff, but yeah, I love this girl. This is, you know, pretty awesome. She's about 1,200 grams now. So
wow, from 09.
No, not from 09. This is from 2018.
Okay.
I just wanted a snake. I wanted a dreamsicle ever since I saw them in 09. So I didn't actually get a dreamsicle until 2018, actually.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so yeah, that would be like a horrible growth rate. For
I was like, dang, talk about slow growth. I like to slow grow my snakes over here, but 1,200 grams after 12 years, wow.
Yeah, that's one rat fuzzy a month for 10 years. Oh man, no, but yeah, it's fun now. So I actually have a couple clutches I'm kind of expecting. I have the pastel Enchi scaleless head, bred to a pastel scaleless head. So that could be super pastel Enchi scaleless as a possibility on that. So, and I do feel follicles in her. And then what's the other one here? I have, that pastel Enchi scaleless head is being bred to a pied female as well. So het pied stuff on that. But yeah, I mean, that's, those ones I felt follicles in. And then the other thing I have, this is I don't know, I call it the Sizzler. I don't know if you ever saw that stuff, Brian, if you ever saw that on any of my Instagram stuff or YouTube stuff. But so this is what's she's in shed, of course. What she's supposed to be would probably be a super pastel yellow belly, possible het pied. But
with like some
I have pictures on my Instagram.
GHI-ish.
Yeah. It's every time I've showed pictures to somebody and they're like, oh, what is that? Does that got GHI in it, or does that have, you know, fader or something? And I'm like, it shouldn't, because the pairing was a pastel gravel possible het pied, which actually ended up prove out to be het pied. The person that bought it from me ended up proving it out to be het pied. So it was a pastel gravel het pied male bred to a pastel ivory, and that I had that same clutch. I had like two or three highways and a pastel highway, and this weird looking girl, and she was like gunmetal gray, like where you see like this stuff here. But then I called her Sizzler because it's not the way it spells, as I know, but if you can't really see on here as well, but it's like SISLR. Something like Sizzler.
You had to stand back and take a closer look to work all that in there.
Exactly.
Put her on the ground and go stand up on a chair, look down. Oh, there it is. Yeah. I love doing that, though. That's what takes me back. Like, I still do that. I still pull out snakes and like look at every little thing, trying to find like what's going like reading tea leaves or something. It's like,
Right.
where is the message at?
Yep. Well, and I was talking to Ozzy. I did an interview with Ozzy during one of the tin leaves. I think it was like I think it was 2018 or 2017 or whatever. And I showed him pictures of that thing. He's like, the high intensity orange dream stuff came from regular orange dream stuff. It just all of a sudden happened. He's like, it wasn't imported from Africa or whatever. It's just all of a sudden just showed up. He's like, that's how the majority of ball python genes come to be, is they just kind of show up, and then sometimes they're genetic, sometimes they're not. He's like, you never know, that might be something. I'm like, I don't want to get my hopes up, but it would be kind of cool. And that's part of the reason why I still have her, even though, like I said, what she should be is just a super pastel yellow belly het pied, possible het pied or whatever. So, but it'll be kind of fun. I figured that would be kind of a fun little project to work on and see if anything comes from it.
Yeah.
And then being that I call it the sizzler, then if it is something new, it'll be called the sizzle gene or some crap like that, or super, then you get the super sizzle, and I don't know, whatever.
Shrimp and steak.
Yeah, there you go. Sizzler special, right there.
Well, shoot, Doug, man,
yeah.
I appreciate you coming on and sharing the story, man. I'm glad to know that you are coming back and at a much more level-headed type of way, and looking forward to. I would have hated for it to go bad and then you just never come back, because I mean, like I said, you're one of the first guys I found out here. Like you are part of my memories of getting back into the hobby back when I did. And
sure,
it's great to see that you're doing well now, man, and that you've worked everything out with your wife and got a little project working over there. It's great. It's great.
Can I mention one thing?
Yes, please do.
Real quick before we go. So she just made it today, but I've been thinking about it, how to do it or how to word it and everything for like a couple weeks now. But I actually started something on Facebook, and right now it's just me in it. So it's a Facebook group, but it's a reptile addiction support group. So what that is, though, it's not like, addicted to reptiles and addicted to ball pythons. It's actually for like legitimate, like, hey, maybe some stuff's kind of gotten out of hand and it's kind of affecting you negatively. Feel free to go on there. I think I made it so it's public to see, but it's a private group, and I don't want any negativity in there. A lot of people have been through some stuff. They don't need more people bashing them and stuff. Like, hey, well, if you're that stupid, you went and did that. Like, why would you spend your mortgage on a snake? I mean, come on, use your head. No, I wanted to be very supportive. I have a feeling I might not be the only person out there who went. Maybe I'm not everybody went as extreme as me, but I definitely feel like maybe other people out there might be letting it go a little farther than they should. Where it might actually start affecting their family and themselves and stuff like that. And I don't really see a lot of stuff out there where people are like, hey, I feel comfortable talking to you, this person, or just sharing my story about, what I'm actually doing. I just blew a whole bunch of money. I didn't pay my rent for the last 3 months or something like that. Like, hey, you know what? We're here for you guys. We're here to help and stuff, and maybe give some advice. And now that I've kind of been through the ringer a little bit, I mean, I'll give whatever advice I can, but maybe somebody else has some advice to give too, and they're more than welcome to join the group for giving advice or trying to get advice and stuff like that.
Awesome. I like. Well, if you can send me the link too, I'll add it to the description of this video so people that watch after the fact can all go down and see that as well.
Sure. Otherwise, yeah, if you go to Facebook, I think if you just search for Reptile Addiction Support Group, I didn't know what else to call it. That was
Russ G.
I don't.
Ross
otherwise,
G.
Otherwise, if somebody messages me through Facebook Messenger or whatever, I can shoot the link to them as well too. If they're not sure, if they can't find it or something, just message me on Doug Nacker on Facebook Messenger too. So
cool. We'll make sure that we get that link in the description too, man, and I'll go slap it up on Instagram too, so that people can find it from there.
Sounds good. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, man. Well, again, Doug, it was great to see you, man. And I mean, we're gonna jump in the after party here for about a half hour and hang out with the folks and do some Q&A back there. But again,
good.
Thank you for coming on and being open to sharing your story. And I think hopefully it helps anybody that might be working themselves into some similar places that you were at. So
yeah, that's my goal for sure. Is help anybody I can. I went through some stuff, and if anybody wants to message me, if they got questions or they want to, somebody to talk to, I'm up there. Just shoot me a message, whatever you can.
Awesome, Doug. Appreciate it, man. I'll see you in just a moment. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
Thanks, buddy. All right, folks. Well, Mr. Doug Nacker, Hissy Fit Reptiles, Link in the description will be there as soon as we're done for the group. Find him, Hissy Fit Reptiles, here on YouTube, Instagram. Great guy, man. Great guy, and I'm glad he was willing to share that story. If maybe there's some kind of group out there that can be created for somebody who's got way too many YouTube channels, that might be something I need to look into before too long. But I I appreciate you guys all for being here and for supporting as you always are. And I'm looking forward to doing more of these, getting back to in person. I believe going to the Arlington show at the end of April, so we can start doing some of these things in person like I like to do. And we'll make it happen, and it'll be great. Next week, I think I'm gonna have my buddy Travis come over, talk about doing breeding loans. Yeah, all right. That sounds good, doesn't it? What are you doing over there, Cuzzo? What are you doing with your hands? All right, guys, have a good night. See you later.